My fiance Derek and I are both in our late 20s and we're child-free. No kids, no plans on kids. He supported me through getting my bachelor's in nursing school, and now I'm supporting him through college. We live in a moderately cramped studio apartment and are saving for a down payment on a nice house outside the city. Derek's dad and stepmother, his half-brother's mother, died in a horrific accident that I don't want to name or specify for privacy reasons. I'm trying my best to support Derek through this, and I've taken over funeral planning. Unfortunately, his dad and stepmother were both broke, and I'm currently paying for the funeral out of pocket. No one in his family can contribute. Since the accident, his brother, a young teen, has been at their aunt's house. He hates it there. Apparently, he has to sleep on the floor, and she has 5 young kids that she makes him babysit. I feel for the kid. I'm sure it's awful. Derek wants to have his brother move in with us, but I'm not comfortable sharing a room with this boy I've met twice. I also don't want to support him. That's at least a 6-year commitment that I never signed up for. I don't even want kids. Derek has suggested we move into a bigger apartment, but our studio is about as cheap as it gets in this city. We lucked out and have been here for 5 years, and the landlord has never raised the rent. So if we move, it'll probably cost around $3,000 to move and an extra $1,000 per month at least, not to mention an extra mouth to feed, school clothes and supplies to buy, etc. It doesn't feel fair to me at all, and I feel like Derek is using the fact that he supported me for 4 years against me. Yes, he supported me, but it was much cheaper to pay for 2 people in a studio apartment than to support 3 in a bigger, more expensive place. So the deal was for him to support me and for me to support him, not him and his brother. He just started school this semester. He has essentially 4 more years to go. That's 4 years of me having to support a household, and what if we break up? I'll have spent 4 years supporting a kid I don't want for nothing back. I suggested Derek drop out of school and get a job so he can contribute if he wants to support his brother, and I said that I would pay for him to go back to school after his brother graduates high school. Derek doesn't want to put off college for another 6 years, which I don't necessarily blame him, but his brother will be safe and fed at his aunt's house. According to both of them, that isn't good enough. I grew up in foster care and I didn't always have somewhere safe to stay, so I guess I'm biased. Am I the idiot for not wanting to support my fiance's younger brother? Oh wow, what a terrible situation. Your reasoning is fair. You didn't want kids, didn't sign up for kids. Your life is not set up for kids. But that is his brother and he feels responsible for caring for his family. So if you marry this man, his burdens become yours and vice versa. This kid is a very young teen. I'm sure that he wishes his parents weren't dead. You are the idiot. You're well within your rights, but being technically correct does not preclude you from being an idiot. I feel exactly the same way. And also, bad things happen in life. It sucks. It sucks a lot. It's messy. It's often not what you signed up for, but that's just life. Imagine if something life-altering happens to you and your husband suddenly says, "I didn't sign up for this." I won't be making any more lifelong commitments to her if she's going to bail when things get tough. Just for your information on the finance side, the kid would likely qualify for deceased parents' benefits, which might help with the food and the rent. I could never turn away my significant other's sibling in such a desperate situation. But technically, no, I guess you don't owe it to him or anyone. Heads up though, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up a deal breaker in your relationship. Update 1. Am I the idiot for not wanting to support my fiance's younger brother? So I did the math on the costs of him supporting me versus me supporting him and his brother and made an Excel sheet and everything. On average, he spent $1,400 a month supporting us over the years I was in school, give or take. My presence cost him an additional $300 a month than if he were to live in the studio alone. So essentially, feeding me and paying for the basics cost him around $15,000 over the 4 years I was in school. We've really scraped by for the last several years. No eating out, no Christmas gifts, etc. I've already paid $10,000 for his parents' funeral. Moving would cost around $3,000, and that alone would cost nearly as much as he spent on supporting me. If we moved to an average 2-bed apartment in the area, our monthly expenses would be roughly around $2,700, and that's without me buying anything nice for his brother, no school trips, no decent school clothes, etc. It would cost me around $1,200 currently to live alone in our studio, so he was paying roughly $300 additional a month to provide for me, whereas in the future, I'd be paying at least $1,500 a month to provide for him and his brother. It's just not even comparable. Not the idiot at all. This is a huge commitment. Your fiancé doesn't want to make any adjustments or contributions. He wants you to support both of them in a situation that's not currently ideal. Who's to say he'll like your place any better? Your fiancé needs to bring more to the table. But you did the math, and if it's correct, he spent $15,000 spread out over 4 years. You're expected to pay a lump sum $10,000 for the funeral, plus $3,000 moving, plus new furniture, bond, more expensive rent, all in a few months. You'd be even paying all this. Yet you're expected to essentially drop the same amount he did over 4 years right now, plus support him and the kid for another 4 to 6 years. Tell him you can pick up the tab for the move and funeral, but it makes you even, and he will need a job to pay his share and the kids right now. He's not willing to compromise anything. This is a big ask and a big change of plan. Heck, he didn't even offer a part-time job to cover the cost of the kid. Just expects that you would be covering everything still. I'm probably going to get hate for this, but his whole family left a very young teen behind with absolutely nothing set aside to provide for him, and then expect you to work it out? If you're adamantly opposed to raising children, period, then you must convey that to your boyfriend and prepare to break up immediately. Update 2. Am I the idiot for not wanting to support my fiancé's younger brother? So Derek came home and we had a long 2-hour or so chat about what taking on this child would entail. I showed him my Excel sheet that I made of what expenses would look like. I suggested he delay school so he could work to support his brother or look into social security benefits and get a part-time job to cover his brother's expenses. He put his foot down and said that since I didn't have to work while I went to school, he shouldn't have to either. He thinks that since we're engaged, my money is his money. I asked what caring for his brother would be like and how he would even get him to school, how he would make time to cook for his brother, help him with homework, etc. He said that with both of us working together, we could figure something out. Ultimately, I don't want a child. I've been child-free for a reason. It's because I care about my free time and money. I told him the only way I'd agree to take in his brother and move would be if he at least got a part-time job that covered roughly the $1,100 difference between what I'm spending to support both of us right now and the costs of a larger apartment and an extra person to be responsible for. He would also need to agree to take sole responsibility for parenting. I don't want to take him back and forth to school every day, be responsible for making sure he eats, etc. Long story short, Derek gave me an ultimatum: support him and his brother or we split. It was pretty clear he was bluffing, but I agreed. Our rental agreement is month to month, so I told him I'd let our landlord know I'd be out before the 1st of next month, so he could take over the rental agreement. I'm currently packing my stuff to stay with a friend, but I should be able to find a place pretty soon. Derek has been begging me to stay. He has no job or way to pay for rent next month. So I offered to calculate what I owe him for supporting me, and after doing some math on what I've spent the last 4 months, including the funeral expenses, I'll be sending him roughly $3,500. It should hold him over for at least 2 months, enough time for him to find a job. He's been begging me to stay, but I don't think I will. The fact that he gave me an ultimatum like that feels gross. He wasn't willing to work at all, and I honestly think he would have pushed all the responsibilities of raising his brother off on me. Never thought I'd be in this position, but I'll be fine. At least I can finally adopt a cat after wanting one my whole life. Derek hates cats. I may be reading this wrong, but it very much seems like your ex-fiancé wanted the glory, but none of the work. He wanted to take in his brother and receive praise for taking in the poor boy without ever actually having the responsibility of raising a child. And not only that, but he doesn't even want to contribute the financial cost of his brother. If the roles were reversed, would he be happy to spend the extra $1,100 per month for your family member to live with you? He's not choosing his brother over you. He gave her an ultimatum, never even thinking she would leave. He thought she would bow her head and support him and raise his brother for him while he felt good about himself and went to school and didn't work. What actually happened is OP chose herself. So now Derek has to get a job no matter what, and will probably have to choose between his brother or school. My guess is he chooses school because he comes off as a selfish, lazy idiot. What do you think? This right here. Now that he has to do it all by himself, who wants to bet he suddenly can't take the kid in anymore? Then he's going to try and get OP back since the kid is no longer an issue. The dude is selfish and he deserves to be alone. OP, you go get that cat and live your best life. Ultimatums never work out, and honestly, you're so right. That attitude says that you would have been responsible for everything in the future. My wife, 41 of 4 years, and I, 45 male, have a blended family. She and I both have a daughter from a previous marriage. Her daughter is a pre-tween and my daughter is 1 year younger. I was raised by a dad who made a good salary but blew every dollar he earned. As a result, I've always lived frugally and hate conspicuous consumption with a passion. Now my wife and I are economically stable. She is a travel nurse and I own a contracting business. We've agreed that we wouldn't raise our kids to be indulgent spenders. However, a caveat is that my wife and my stepdaughter are attached at the hip. She calls her the love of her life and her muse, as well as her fashion twin. My wife has recently started her own nursing agency, and between that and her summer contract, she's making more than me for the first time. So, despite her often arranging for my stepdaughter to travel with her during the summer or visit her office, she also feels a lot of mom guilt. Therefore, she's very susceptible to the dreaded puppy dog eyes. The puppy dog eyes convinced her to fork out money for membership to a mini golf place my stepdaughter got bored of after 2 visits, and it worked today at the mall. We first went to get the kids new backpacks and then went across the mall to Bloomingdale's because my wife was getting interviewed by a local paper and needed something to wear. When we were there, we split up because my stepdaughter squealed, "Twins!" and went to help her mom pick out clothes. I found a place to sit down with my daughter because I needed to answer a few emails. I returned to Earth because my wife and stepdaughter had disappeared and my daughter said she saw them go down the escalator. We go down and find them at a jewelry counter. My daughter makes a noise of dismay as she watches them get handed 2 matching bags. My daughter asks if stepmom bought something for her stepsister and my wife says, "No, sweetie, it's just for me." However, a look at her stepsister's face tells my daughter that she's lying and she starts saying, "What did you get? Can I have one, please?" My stepdaughter says, "It's called a tennis bracelet, and I got it because Mom and I are twins." My wife shushed her and said we should go home now, but my daughter kept repeating, "Can I have one? I want one." Then she bursts out into tears. So I tell my daughter to come with us, and when she doesn't, I'm exasperated and say, "Stop, you're acting very spoiled. A lot have less than you." My daughter then stomps after us. When I got home, I found out the cost of the bracelets was over $2,000 together and expressed dismay to my wife, reminding her of our no luxury policy for our kids. She says she knows, but that it was the happiest she'd seen her daughter and she has to go away for business soon and felt guilty. Regardless of my wife's actions, I need to continue teaching my daughter my values. Am I the idiot? So let me get that straight. You, your wife and your wife's daughter live in luxury, travel, get very expensive jewelry and new clothes, but your daughter is spoiled because she is being lied to her face and excluded? Is it okay with you that your wife lies straight to your daughter's face? Some people have cheaper wedding rings than that bracelet. You are the idiot, an awful father, and your wife is a horrible stepmother. I hope you like your stepdaughter because your daughter will remember this. Not to mention how this particular incident played out. Stepmom and daughter head off together to bond as twins while you ignore your daughter to answer emails. What values do you think you're instilling? That no one in her family values your daughter? Job done. Basically, you're telling your daughter that she's wrong for feeling excluded when that is precisely what your wife and daughter are doing. Your wife has never accepted your daughter and she never will. So you will continue living in some fool's paradise, demeaning and devaluing your daughter. So sad that she can't return to her bio mother and is forced to live in an emotionally abusive environment. Disagree. Opie's wife lies to Opie's daughter because she knows Opie is too cheap to buy stuff for his own daughter and doesn't want her to feel hurt or left out when she buys it for her own daughter. Sounds like Opie and his wife have separate finances for each of their own daughters, so I won't say she's a horrible stepmother. Opie is definitely the idiot for his treatment of his daughter. I, 50 female, told my daughter, 24, she needed to pay rent. She got out of college in February and struggled to find a job until October. I supported her during the job hunt and she's been living back home rent-free. I was excited for her finally finding the job, especially when it's surprisingly well paying. However, she told me she won't get paid until late this month. I said it was fine, but she still needed to pay rent. The other day she told me she planned a trip with her friends and was saving for plane tickets. I reminded her again she still needed to pay rent as it felt like she was trying to avoid rent so she could save money for the trip. She told me she'd pay the rent but deducted her credit card bill. Apparently she wanted me to pay her credit card bill first, then keep the rest as rent. I told her it was unacceptable. She rolled her eyes and tried to walk away. In the heat of the moment, I said some unfortunate things. At the end of the fight, she finally agreed to pay the rent and her own credit card bill. My daughter has become extremely distant since. She started working overtime almost all week. I tried to talk to her. I even told her she could keep her original plan, but she just kept fixating on the things I said, either ignoring my message or telling me how I've misunderstood her and made her feel bad. My husband thinks I'm the idiot because he thinks our daughter was already stressed and I kept reminding her of rent money she didn't have. Demanding rent in a fight made me the villain. Today she handed me a stack of cash, rent and credit card bill included. I tried to tell her the money will be in a family savings account. She rolled her eyes and said she didn't care. She then cut up the credit card I was managing the bills for. My husband gave me an "I told you so" look. I honestly don't think I deserve any of this treatment. I love my daughter very much, but I can't help but wonder if my husband was right. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. My parents had me start paying rent when I was 20. It was a small amount at first, but it really helped me to start learning to take care of things myself while still having a safety net. Your daughter is a grown woman. Time to put on her big girl panties. You are the idiot because you don't explain what unfortunate things you said during the fight. It must have been nasty or you wouldn't be hiding it. It also seems like you feel guilty for what you said because you've been backtracking with her and telling her it's going into a special account. It's not unreasonable to expect your adult daughter to contribute rent now that she has a job, but I would think you're old enough to disagree with someone without getting personal. I also think if it was just about the rent, she wouldn't still be upset with you. The only person in this situation with all the information, your husband, clearly thinks you're the idiot. You're not telling us how much rent you're asking for or what bad things you said during this fight. When you were given the money she worked extra hours for, you told her it would sit in a savings account you set up. You flat out let everyone know it wasn't money necessary for household expenses. It's entirely reasonable to expect an adult child to contribute to household costs while they still reside with their parents. If that were the only issue at play here and you were forthcoming about it, this would easily put you in the clear. Obviously, you're trying to make yourself look better, so I will have to side with your husband.